All right. Hey, everybody. It's Dave Neal, host of the Rush Hour podcast with a nice weekend treat for you. Today's guest on the podcast is the creator of the Social Media Detox, a 14-day program designed to help you break free from your attachment to social media. It's Teague Dooley Penko. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. Thanks so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's so nice to talk to you. I saw your social media post that you launched this program, a book regarding our addictions. We always talk about how bad social media can get, but like, what are we doing about it? Like, how did you go from the concept of wanting to make this to where we are now?
Yeah, I realized I myself had a problem and I wanted to start finding tools and tricks to help myself get offline and start being more mindful in my own, existence. And so honestly, it was like a conversation with my therapist. And then we started talking about tools and tricks. And then I started putting this program together. And that's kind of how it snowballed. And I talked to a lot of really smart people to put it together. So I'm really proud of what we came up with.
Now, before we get into like what the book's all about in the detox, what is
Yeah.
there a feeling that you get when you know like I'm on this thing too long, or is it just like do you feel like depleted, right? Because it's like we only have so much of that feel good energy in our body, and it almost feels like it robs it from us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's that compulsion, right? It's like that constant need to be stimulated, which is everywhere. Like even when I go on a walk outside, it's hard for me to not listen to a podcast or listen to something. It's like we just want to like be locked in on something and have that dopamine at all times. But yeah, I think like when I realized I had a problem with my phone was just like waking up and immediately feeling like I needed to check it. Like I had to go look at it and like going to bed and not being able to just like separate myself from it before that nighttime scroll. And so those are two things that I feel like were really enlightening for me and made me want to make a change for sure.
You call it the nighttime scroll, but it's like that. And then
Mm.
the morning, if you don't have to rush out of bed for something, I mean, how many hours have we been robbed of the ability to do productive things?
It's crazy. And they say there's research that suggests that if you look at your phone first thing in the morning, it's so bad for your brain because your brain's not even awake for like the first 30 minutes of the day. You're not like fully locked in. So like immediately exposing yourself to news and updates and emails and things can really stress you out and can trigger, feelings of anxiety right away in the morning is like so bad. So a lot of people that I talked to when I was doing research for the book, a lot of them said stay off that phone for the first 30 minutes of the day, which is not easy to do. But one way that I have implemented that was like putting my phone in another room when I went to bed and then having an actual alarm clock, which old school, but it was great.
You
And
know
it
what?
actually has made such a difference.
I started doing that until I had the baby because now my phone's attached to like the baby's heart monitor and all. But I
Oh,
did that,
yeah.
and I have to tell you, and I think it was called there's the detox. There's a book about detoxing or toxic. I can't remember the name of it. Toxic behavior.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's called Atomic Habits, and it mentions
Oh, love
something
it.
similar, which is like. Yeah, make it difficult. So, like, if you were addicted to TV, take the batteries out of your remote control. So, like you said, the proximity,
Yeah.
getting your phone, making it a little bit harder to deal with that compulsion might stop you from spiraling, into whatever doom scroll you might have because the phone's sitting at your bedside.
Totally. I mean, there's so many ways to do that, and we talk about a lot of them in the book, but phone proximity is one of the biggest things. I mean, there's research that suggests having your phone out and by you and open actually triggers stress and triggers that idea, like subconsciously makes you think of what's going on that phone. Like, what do I have to check? But there's research that will kind of suggested that like if you have your phone out of your sight line, so maybe in a bag or in a drawer during the day, it does so much for your mental health. Like it really helps you not think about it as much. And so that's really powerful. And a lot of other people talk about like, having phone free zones. So when you go home and you guys all have dinner at the dinner table, making that table phone free zone. You can't have a phone. No one can have a phone here while we're here. So there's different ways to implement it in your daily life. It's hard to do, but once you make it a habit, it becomes a little bit easier.
That's so the phone free zone is such a fun idea. You'll see like
Yeah.
you go to brunch and you'll see like someone whip their phone out and the next thing you know, 9 people are all checking in on people that aren't there. And it's like, what are we doing? So the addiction, it's like
It's so
not just
crazy.
Yeah, it's like if one person, it's almost like you have to like share it with your friend group. Like, hey, why don't we try to do it differently this time? I'm not going to shame anybody. Let's just like maybe if you have to use your phone, just go into the bathroom. At least that way, you'd go do it and come back. And if you're on your phone for too long, people will be like, what the hell's wrong with this person? But like, it's no longer I'm here to take a phone call for work. It's compulsive, like you said. So what's
Mhm.
the result been? And is it still hard to follow? Like, what are the main like umbrella points that you have? Of course, I want everyone to go get the book, but just to
Yeah.
tease, what can they? What
Yeah,
can they
yeah.
expect?
Totally. Well, in the book, every day, it's 14 days. Every day we kind of talk about a different topic surrounding social media. So like one of the days is FOMO. And so we talk about FOMO and the statistics and the research and studies that have been done around that topic as it pertains to social media. And then the challenge, there's always a daily challenge. The challenge that day is to make social plans. So go out, reach out to those friends you haven't talked to in a while, reach out to those family members you haven't hung out with, and get things on the books. And even the idea of making a plan, the action of making a plan is really good for your brain. It gets your brain excited. It releases serotonin. So that's one of the days. And then at the end of the day, there's like a journal prompt so you can reflect on that and actually start putting those plans into action. But yeah, it's honestly, it's a lot of mindfulness techniques are placed in the book because the whole idea is just to get you out of the digital device, give you something to do, whether that's like an energizing hobby. Those are hot now. It's like all about like tactile things and like making things, or, just getting out there. Or even one of the days is we talk about milestone envy, which is very prevalent on social media, like looking at people hitting milestones. Maybe it's like a big career thing, or every time I see a deadline article, I always immediately get anxiety. I'm like, what's going on? What am I not doing? What is everybody else doing? But yeah, milestone envy. And then the challenge that day is basically listing out your own personal goals. So trying to focus on like what you want to get done, what you want to work on, instead of focusing on what everybody else is doing, and kind of bringing you back to that place of like understanding and being more mindful in your own situation. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
And these milestone goals, it's only going to get worse for people as we move away from like people with having one job. So you're a multi hyphenate. I want to rattle this through. If I can remember correctly, you were correct me if I'm wrong. You're comedian, actor, Lakers girl, former reporter. What am I?
Yeah.
Did I get all that right?
Yeah, yeah. I really am a jack of all trades. I do a lot of things and I have severe ADHD. And so yeah, I like I like staying really, really busy. And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough, which is crazy. But yeah, I do a lot of different stuff in the entertainment world. And you have to in this economy. Are you kidding me?
But that's the problem, right? Is that you see everyone's highlights on their social media and you got all these things going on. Like if my channel's taking off, my first thought is I am not watering my stand-up comedian side of my brain because I'm too busy doing this thing, even though other people are looking at the things I'm successful at. And we're all like, to compare is despair. And I don't blame people for sharing their milestones. I do it too. It's like, how do we set those boundaries to use social media as a tool, which we have to do in this industry, continue to grow, but also
Mhm.
use that tool, but also back away? And how do you find those boundaries?
Totally. Well, one thing I think is really powerful is trying to compartmentalize your use. So this day and age, a lot of us have to use social media as a part of our either personal brand or our career, or it's like an extension of us. Even think about people who do like real estate, or people on LinkedIn who are looking at sales or whatever. I mean, so much of us we're tied to our online presence, and I feel like that comes with a lot of pressure sometimes. Especially, I mean, I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure you're always kind of trying to stay active and busy online, to engage with your audience. And I think my suggestion for people that feel like they have that situation going on in their life is to try and compartmentalize your use. So, if you work in sales and you generally work from 9 to 5, you'll be available online and on your social platforms at that time. But I try to suggest when you go home, to try and separate from that a little bit. Try to not look at your work accounts when you go home, because if you do, then you're just working all the time and that's not fun at all. So really try to compartmentalize your use. Find the things that you love about social media, because there's great parts about it. Obviously, we all know we love social media for community, for information. But there are parts that are not so good and maybe make us feel less productive or like we're not doing enough. And so I think finding those things, compartmentalizing it, and then trying to make a better schedule. Just be more mindful.
And that's the key, right? Is to always just have your finger on. All right, am I past the daily allotment? And we were talking before we went on air about the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni situation. Without getting into the nitty gritty of their actual beef, it is really created this community of people online constantly combing through information. It's like a world of like a million private investigators. I'm covering it all day. Then I got to go in the other room and like wipe the slate clean and be like a dad and it's like it can be a lot, like you said, to take things home. So what do you like? What are your thoughts as far as like the addiction and cleansing yourself of like the healthy amount of online gossip compared to being like, okay, we're going a little too hard on this, like when you're approaching that?
Absolutely. That's so interesting because for me, it's not online gossip. It's more stalking my ex-boyfriends. And it's so bad for me. Like I go down rabbit holes. I have looked at voter records, like it has gotten so deep. And so, yeah, I think we know when it's gotten to a point where it's getting a little dangerous. I mean, when I'm, it's gotten bad. And I think, right? I think when you're thinking about it and when you are compelled to go to your Finsta and check out his new girlfriend or whatever it is, like, you've gone too far. I even feel that way. Yeah. I even feel that way about like people who, there's some friends, that maybe they don't invite you to a party or something and they are always posting that they're so active and maybe, you don't always get the invite. And so I always suggest just mute those people if you can, try to mute people. And then it's just out of sight, out of mind. Same thing with the exes. Again, not easy, but
that's so funny though, because
the hole I go down.
It's so funny though, because that connective tissue is there where you talk about checking in on your exes and people, when they do cover celebrity gossip, I think in some way role play as if they were getting dumped. When I cover The Bachelor, whenever somebody gets dumped on the show, like if a guy dumps the girl on the show and then I have a live stream after, I got a whole bunch of women that are mad at me. Like we're all just like, we're all like getting triggered and re-triggered. And that trigger might look different to everybody depending on what it is that their attachment issue is. So interesting for you to talk about social media and how it links you to your exes. We didn't have to deal with this back in the day, right? Back in the day, you'd say goodbye forever.
Yeah, and that was so lovely. Like I loved like not knowing that they existed anymore. But now, I'm not only stalking them, I'm stalking, like I said, their new girlfriends, their new wives. I once live streamed a wedding of an ex, and that was a very dark day for me. Okay, that was a very
nice destination wedding. Were they
it looked incredible.
It looked
they
incredible.
Had so much fun. They had so much fun, and I felt horrific about myself after. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just like trying to recognize those habits in yourself and trying to mitigate it and keep it to a minimum. Not easy.
Mitigate it, right? Yeah, you're not going to never be the type of person that you are. It's just like don't let social media be the accelerant to your own demise, right? So right. Where are you right now? Are you in the dating world? Are you happily with someone but you'd like to live stream your ex's weddings? Like give us the status update.
I think if you can infer this from the crazy habits I'm exuding online, no, I am single. And I'm on the dating apps and I'm doing that whole thing and it's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think when you're not with someone and no one's occupying your time, you're like, well, I wonder what my life would have looked like if I would have ended up with X, Y, Z, and then fill in the blanks.
And by the way, it's never a good scenario. Like, you know what I mean? You're giving me Kate Hudson in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which I love. Very great movie. You've got to be a part of it. If they ever do a remake, we need to get you in the audition room there.
That's what I'm saying.
So, because the book's not about iPhone detox; it's about social media detox. I was talking to my lady recently. She's like, you know what? I think I might have to get a flip phone. And I was like, honey, let's do it. Our computer, our car now has its own navigation system, so we don't need the phone. There's just certain things that you go, all right, can we go flip phone or get like one of those cheaper smartphones that only has Google? No one's like, oh boy, I spent 7 hours Googling things. No, it's the social media element that is the problem. So like, how do you can't just delete the apps. So other than, with compulsions, how are you above the power of what all of these smart people made to keep us addicted? Like other
Yeah,
than other than, as a shitty question, but like other than keeping the phone far away from you, um, rather than going, oh, time's up, I've been on it for an hour. Like, how do you avoid that in the first place?
I think I talk about in the book knowing your triggers, like trying to identify when you reach for your phone. So that's one of the days is like every time I reach for my phone today, I'm going to note why. So like, am I at a coffee shop and am I waiting in line and do I feel anxious? Do I feel weird in this situation because I'm in public and I don't know anyone? And I think what's more comfortable is for me to just pull out my phone and scroll on social media because, looking at the maps is not that interesting, but looking at a social feed is better. And so, I think just trying to like understand why you reach for your phone and what that looks like for you, it can be really helpful, even just to become aware of it. You don't have to like cold turkey, get off the apps or do anything like that, but just trying to identify like what it is. Am I bored? Am I anxious? Do I feel bad? Do I feel good? Am I excited about sharing something? Like trying to find why you use it. And then I feel like it can like help you, use it a little bit smarter and not get so, tied into it all.
The idea of knowing, like when you said waiting in line, I mean, that's prime whip the phone out. Not only on the
Oh, yeah.
mental level of what it's doing, but we're all getting like, chiropractors are benefiting the most out of this because our necks are all looking in the wrong
Oh,
direction. Like it's completely like I worry most about the people that go, oh, I don't have that problem. You think about like our parents, like they're like, my mom's got like all these every alert, she doesn't know how to turn her alerts off on her phone. So like her phone is just nonstop pulling her attention. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is insanity. And like, yeah,
yeah.
maybe we should be a little bit more bored in our life,
Totally. I mean, there's so much. I actually talk about that in the book too. I mean, there's so much research that like being bored and getting quiet mentally is so good for you. It's really hard for me, as I mentioned, ADHD severe. But one thing I've tried to implement in my life is I will go to the infrared sauna every week, which makes me, I put my phone out of the room and like don't think about anything, no music, no stimulation. And I swear my best ideas come out of that sauna room. Because I mean, if you think about it, like all day long, we're listening to things, we're looking at things, we're being engaged, we're tied in, we're engaged and we're being entertained or entertaining others all day. And so I think if you don't have that time to be bored or get quiet mentally, you just don't even have your own original thoughts anymore. Like you do, but like a lot of them are coming from what you're looking at on your screen, which I think is like a dangerous, slippery slope.
Yeah, I was at the sauna at Crunch. We don't have one near us now, but this is back in Burbank. And
Uh-huh.
this dude was bringing his cell phone into the sauna. And I was like, first of all, this is a hazard. It's 110 degrees in here. But I was like, I hope the phone blows his hands off. Like, this is the place I go to sweat like the sauna is a great example of putting yourself in a physical place where you really shouldn't have a phone. It's kind of like
No.
swimming laps. Like if like swimmers who swim, like the brain can go places that it can't if it's just consuming. You can't create while you consume. And doing comedy or trying to write something or even in your dating world. I mean, imagine missing the opportunity to make eye contact with Mr. Right because you're walking down the street looking at your phone.
That is what I say all of the time. Dave, it's almost like you wrote my book. I have a page in the book that it's called Magic to Anticipate. And it talks about like anticipating magic in the world. And one of the big ways you can do that is like taking a look up from your phone. And I make the argument like you could like find the love of your life today. You could like get your dream job. So many things could happen if you just start engaging with the world again and you're not in this like constant trance with a digital device. So I make that argument all the time, but you're so right. You gotta start
Maybe
looking up.
it's almost like you need to put your phone on like a table and plug it in, and that's where it lives. Like back in the day with the wired phone, you're young, but like you could only travel 10 feet with that thing. And now it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so not to beleaguer a point, but I'm with you on this one. And I understand the addiction. I don't get it when I'm on YouTube. If I have to click over to the community section to see comments. So the rumination isn't that big of a problem. It's way worse with TikTok and Instagram. And what I've learned is, because I do the podcast in the morning and at night, sometimes at night I'll be scrolling through Instagram to look for, content I want to cover. It's a really good place. It's a good tool. But at night, when I'm tired and when I'm weak, I can't focus so much. And it's almost like I'm drifting out to sea and I can't swim back to the side of my brain that is really good at making decisions. And it just muddies things. So we're not scientists and experts on what's going on. But I think the more you talk about do I feel good or do I not feel good? It's very easy to see that. And by the way, there was a marriage counselor I was listening to, and the marriage counselor said, I don't even address my client's problems until we figure out the phone situation. It's one thing when the phone's sabotaging you as a single person. It's another when there's two people on opposite ends of the couch looking at things that aren't important to them. That's not good for building relationships.
Totally. And well, there was a recent study that came out that talked about the fact that couples sometimes, when one person isn't feeling validated or isn't feeling, like they're getting enough attention or love, they go to social media or they go to their phone, and then it just wedges that divide even deeper. So people are starting to talk about it, but relationships are definitely struggle. Even in my early stage on the dating apps, it's like, it can become, it's just dangerous. There's a slippery slope, because both of us at the end of the day know that if something doesn't go right here, we can very quickly go on another date, because we both have these apps on our phone. So it's a weird thing, definitely, for relationships.
Right. There's the perception that there's more options than there really are, because the truth is the other person has those options too. So it's like, if you're looking for somebody who's a worthwhile mate, you both will get validation. You're going to go on there and get a million guys. What's interesting about dating and social media is that you have the chance to learn all of the gems about somebody before you meet. So do you have any boundaries about dating online, and how much research do you do? We know you stalk your exes at their weddings, but how do you go with the new guys?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I really should be in the FBI. But I think a lot of girls do this. I do extensive research. I mean, it's so easy now. There's so many ways to stalk these guys before you go on a first date. LinkedIn is a very nice resource, I'll say. I definitely do a lot of research. I have occasionally watched a high school track meet before I've gone on a date.
Do you feel like that's too far? Now I'm trying to get into your love life. At what point?
Yeah.
So is watching them pole vaulting? Is that when you've crossed the line?
No, I think that's when it's just getting started. I think that's I want to be I think I want to be a little excited going in. The only thing that is a problem is you have to do a lot of acting on that first date and pretend like you don't know anything about them when you clearly know their middle name and their mom's, favorite hobby. But you have to do a lot of oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I had no idea. It's I knew that.
That's so funny. Yeah. You're looking at the mom's barbecue photos. So you're like, oh, so I know you guys like to summer in Nantucket. The guy's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But all is fair in the internet, I'm sure guys should do research before they go out with me too. So, and you know what, there's a wealth of old YouTube videos that I wish I could scrub from the internet. So they get to do that and I will do the same, Yeah,
you've done so many things. You've been in front of the camera for a long time doing, like I said before, what do you, aside from the detox in the book and doing your media rounds, what else are you working on career-wise?
Yeah, my next step is just to continue writing. I have a script, actually, a 30-minute comedy script that I'm taking out right now. And, the industry is in a very weird place. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's the dream. That's the goal, is to keep writing and to just, keep making things that I care about and working on projects that, are stories that I want to be told. So yeah, that's the next step. I want to keep doing stand-up. I want to just be creative.
Do you remember when I DM'd you to do this, I saw our last messages. Do you remember what happened?
No,
there was a guy, we did an open mic and then we didn't.
Oh my gosh.
And there was this guy, and of course, so the guy goes on stage and he's like, yeah, I just got out of the mental institutions or whatever. He's like a crackpot. And then you go on
Oh my
stage
God.
and you're like lovely, there's 6 people in the room. And the guy was like really giving you a hard time. And none of us, I
Yeah.
feel bad because there was like bystander syndrome. None of us stopped him, but also you were handling it really well. So I do feel like it was a good workout for you to deal with a real asshole. But I felt so
Yeah.
bad for you after I texted you being like, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Wait, no, I'm pretty sure what happened. And yes, you were so right. First of all, you are so lovely, and I appreciated the support at the time. I'm pretty sure, didn't I cry? I think I
You you,
cried.
you stopped.
I think I cried.
I
I
feel
think
so
I cried.
bad. You
I
like
think you
stopped
left
your.
out.
You
I
like
think you left
stopped
a
your.
key detail out.
He. Oh wait. What's the key detail?
No, okay. I think he went. Did he go first? He went first, and I was in the back row, and I wasn't laughing enough. And he was like, "This girl, like, what a, like she's such a snob. She's not laughing at any of our jokes or whatever." And then she looks like such a bit, like whatever he was saying was just like so crazy and unhinged. And I was like trying to compartmentalize and think I could like get through it. So I went up next at this open mic again with 5 of us in the crowd, and I was like, "That's so funny!" Like, and then I like literally started crying and had to leave the club.
Yeah, we were
Because
like,
I was so.
and then the rest of us that have done comedy for a long time, we're like, no, come back. But yeah, but that's the problem is like anybody can do these things, and the guy
Oh my
was literally,
God.
just got like bust there from the asylum. Like you had every right to like not want to deal with that. I just felt bad because I was like, oh, I hope this
Oh my
person's
God.
never like, some people they have a bad experience and like I'm moving back to Missouri. I'm never, and it's like, no, you were great. It had nothing to do with you, but how funny you've come so far.
That is so funny, and you were so lovely during that time. That was such a weird. Open mics are so hard, and like sometimes you get situations like that. I've never cried on stage, but I think I cried and I left.
I've had
So that's
plenty of
hilarious. I'm glad you
times.
brought that up.
I've had plenty of times where I kick the door down and drive home so upset that it was such a waste of time. And I always joke because that
Oh
open
yeah.
mic is right next to a Pavilions. And I'm always like, I could have literally bought something at Pavilions and talked to the cashier and got a better response than I was getting from the audience. But you just don't know. You got to go out there and it's like dating. You don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes you leave crying. Like, what can you do?
Totally. No, absolutely. Stand up, and especially the open mic scene is tough.
And way worse in LA. I mean, I'm having a blast in Nashville. Most people here give you a fair shot, but LA is just full of a bunch of psychopaths, sadly, but it is. Now, my last question, do you think this ex whose live stream you watched, is this relationship going to make it?
With him and her?
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, no. But for her sake, I hope that it does. I really hope that it does. I hope that he's changed his ways. Unfortunately, I know his ways and they're not good. So,
oh wow.
We'll see.
So that relationship did not end well.
Did not end well, but that's okay. And I really genuinely, I hope they're happy. And I'll be stalking them till the day they die. I can't wait for them to have a kid.
Well, I'm going to be stalking them. I'm invested in your love life now, and we want updates. I think I'm going to buy your book for my wife, and I think we're going to do it, and then maybe we can have you back on in the short future, and we can talk more about it.
That would be so awesome, and I just appreciate you having me on, Dave. And you are the best, and I'm so happy that you're doing all this because you're the greatest guy for it.
Oh, thanks. And so, what's the best way for people to buy the book?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's social-media-detox.net, or you can go on Amazon and you can search the Social Media Detox by me.
And then they can follow you on Instagram at TiegDP. Do I have that right? TIEGEDP?
Yes, which does feel ironic, I know, but yes, I am there.
Well, we're excited. We're excited to see your journey, and I appreciate all the tips that you've given us. So again, come back anytime.
Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it. You're the best.